Hi everyone. Once more, we are going to discuss this particular topic. We need to remember that we have to write an analytical paragraph. Analysis means you need to observe the whatever map, chart, report, or graph that has been given, analyze it properly, look at the trends, whether something is increasing, decreasing, or any particular variations in the map chart or report that has been given to you, and you have to write it in 150 to 200 points. So for this, we are going to follow a three-step approach. We are going to introduce the graph, give an overview of it, and then explain it in details. Now let us look at each of the things one by one. Here we have a question. So the chart, as you can see in front of your screens, it is a bar graph, and it shows global sales of different kinds of digital games from the year 2000 to 2006. And here we have to write an analytical paragraph. So let us first analyze this particular bar graph and see what all are the things that have been given in it. So as we can see on the top of the graph, there have been mentioned four different kinds of games, and each game has been assigned a particular color. Mobile phone games in blue color, online games in green color, console games in yellow, and handheld games in orange. And the sales has been given along the y-axis in dollars, in billion dollars terms. So as you look at the year 2000, you just find the sale of only two games uh, in yellow color and orange. That is console games and handheld games. So these games were only being sold uh, during the year 2000, and there was no sale for online games and mobile phone games. As we look at the 6 year period, we find that after 2000, after the year 2000, the growth in sales of online games in digital games is increasing, and the predominant increase can be seen in handheld games, mobile phone games, and online games, whereas the sales of console games is on the decline. So it was around 6 billion, and it was less than 6 billion, about 5.8 Now moving on to the second part, that is writing the overview. So even the overview, like the introduction, has to be written in 1 or 2 lines, and the general trend of the bar graph is to be mentioned here. So as we discussed, is that the sale of console games is declining, and the sale of all other types of games, handheld games, online or mobile games, has been increasing at the expense of console games. Not just at the expense, but they are generally increasing, and only the console games are declining. So we are going to write this, that over the 7 years. So we these are 7 years, 2000 to 2006. It is a period of 7 years. There has been a declining trend in sale of console games, whereas the sale of all other games continued to increase. The maximum increase was seen in case of online games and mobile phone games, because they increased from almost nothing in year 2000. There was no sale of these games, and they increased to a combined sale of about $14 billion. So the maximum sale is in these two categories of digital games. Then we'll be one thing to remember, that we don't have to write any details, any data in this. We'll be writing the data in the next part, when we'll be giving the details about the analytical paragraph. So now we'll be writing the details of the graph, and we'll be giving all the facts and figures that we can observe from it. So in the year 2000, the handheld games were with a sale of about $11 billion. So this is around $11 billion, and the console games was about $5.8 billion. So it is an approximate amount. Um, the amount that you are able to observe from the graph. So it need not be accurate, but it should be approximate. It shouldn't be that it appears to be $10 billion or $11 billion, and you've written it as $8 billion. So it should be approximate, uh, even if it is not exactly accurate. So these two games dominated the digital games market. But in the next 6 years, what happened was, though the sale of handheld games continued to increase, and it reached to a high of $17 billion, about $17 billion. So it can be $17.5 billion, but I have taken it as an approximate of $17 billion in global sales. And the sale of console games, instead of increasing, it declined to at around $3 billion. So it may appear to be less than $3 billion. So it can be 2.5, $2.7 billion, but I have approximated to about $3 billion. Now we'll be moving to the other kinds of games. So the decline in sale of console games is due to the emergence of online games and mobile phone games in the year 2001 and 2002 respectively. Look, this line that I have mentioned, the decline in sale of console games. By writing these kind of lines, it builds continuity between the first and the second paragraph. So when you're writing in such a way, it is going to be more enjoyable to read, because it is in continuity. It is not going to appear that you have put in place different set of data or different paragraphs. You have just put them in place there, and there is no connectivity between the two. So this line shows a connectivity between the first paragraph and the second paragraph. Now we'll be mentioning the details about these two games. So these two games, especially the online games, so it began with a mere sale of $0.5 billion. So it appears to be about $0.5 billion, and online games have reached to a sale of around $8 billion in the year 2006. So in just about 6 years, I've mentioned it wrong here. So it is around 6 years. It has reached to a sale of $8 billion. On the other hand, in case of mobile phone games, the sale increased from $1 billion in 2002. It did not exist in 2001. So it began only in 2002, and it reached to $6.5 billion. So the increase in sale of mobile phone games is also equally impressive as it is for online games. So after that, I've just mentioned a small line in order to conclude the paragraph. So hence, given the trend, it appears that increase in sale of digital games is likely to continue in future. So this is a general line to conclude the entire paragraph. There were a few questions asked by me by some of the students. So I'll just uh, bring into your notice uh, about the doubts that may rise in your mind. So the answer has to be written like this. It has to be a single answer, and you don't need to write any particular paragraphs. So I haven't written any introduction, but there is an introduction. I haven't written any overview, but there is an overview to this. And then now you need to remember that whatever is being given in the question, you have to stick to that. So what you are being able to observe from the graph, please stick to it. Don't go beyond it. So you don't need to mention what is the advantage of playing online games or what is the disadvantage of playing digital games. So if you're going to write that, though it is, you may say that it is related to the graph because it is, the graph is related to digital games, but the graph does not show that. So please stick to only the information which you can decipher directly from the graph or the chart. No other information needs to be written. And also, you don't need to write the headings of individual paragraphs. These are only for explanatory purposes. And thirdly, you need to stick to the word limit. So if it has been mentioned 150 to 200 words, it can be plus minus 10%, not more than that. If you go beyond that, that can result in deduction of marks. So I hope you liked this video.